This is a very, very vital, important, and significant issue that is being brought to bear or to the fore. I sympathize with the people of Northeast for lack of electricity for more than a month, which speaks volume of negativity in every facet of our livelihood today. But this issue, because of the importance of power in contemporary world, shouldn't be only confined or limited to Northeast. It is a general problem. And so really and truly today, without electricity, you virtually can achieve nothing. Virtually nothing can be achieved without electricity. The local communication we were used to does no longer exist. It is all to do with our phones. And so without electricity to charge, the natives being able to charge their phones, how do they transact businesses? When we, the government of today, or the financial system today, preaches, propagates, and does all it can to institutionalize financial inclusion, cashless economy, it is all to do with this. And if there is no power to charge electricity, your phones, how do they transact businesses? As a native, growing up in my local community, what we used to have no longer exists. The traditional grinding machine that we grind corn and all our consumables that need to be grinded, today, that does no longer exist. You use electrical machines to grind all you need for your daily consumptions. So without electricity, nothing can really be achieved. And this issue of electricity all around the country, Mr. President, like Senator Ahmed Lawan said, as uncommon as we know you to be, this 10th Senate should be much more uncommon in addressing the issue of electricity in Nigeria. Because I can really not understand why the inability to solve this problem in this country. All the sources of power generation that technology has provided in the world today, Nigeria has all those sources of power generation. And yet, we still don't have electricity. My local community is not exempted from the situation of lack of electricity. And we're talking corruption, fighting corruption. How do we fight corruption where life is so expensive, so difficult for people to live? The cost of diesel is a problem. The cost of this is a problem. And the government of the day is doing the best it can. But if we allow things like this to continue the rate at which they are going, Nigerians will not appreciate the efforts of this government.
But you notice that the motion, it is not that government failed to provide.
I am going there, Mr. President.
No, but start from there, because you have to tailor your contribution towards the motion. The motion is saying that as a result of vandalization of the TCN lines, that the entirety of the Northeast today has stayed without electricity. And then Senator Kaka said that some areas, because of insecurity and also the same vandalization, had even stayed for 2 years. But now, of recent, it has now extended to the whole states of the entire region. So, and then Senator Ahmed Lawan pointed out that federal government has tried to introduce the Northeast Development Commission, and that will help in terms of improving the infrastructure, but it is not enough. The government needs to do more in order to ensure that that area is taken as a special development area.
Mr. President,
for us to achieve anything.
I am.
If you are saying that you can't understand why Nigeria has not moved forward in electricity, it's the same way that you can't understand why some people are tall and some people are short. That is the simple truth. The country is not in dire need of ideas or speeches, but the country is in dire need of action. And what we are talking about now is that everybody must contribute. All hands must be on deck. The vandals must stop in order for the Northeast to have electricity. And government must also do its best to expand the coverage. So I believe we are on the right track.
So what's the difference between?
So please.
I had not, I am not, and shall not talk out of point. Vandalization is a common problem everywhere, and those that are into this should be called to order. And having said that, I am, and I did say that the government of the day is doing the best it can to ensure that this situation is being handled. But if things like this continue, Nigerians will not appreciate. So really and truly, Mr. President, what you said and what I said are on the same path. So we should all do the needful.
So you support the motion?
Of course, I support the motion. That's why I raised my hand and you recognized me, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. The civil service allow, in addition, that it will also assist to give light to the Northeast. So the person was suggesting two sources of transmission, which will make it sustainable outside the repair of the immediate damaged transmission line. Please go ahead.
Some parts of the Northeast had no light in the last 2 years. Of recent, the other parts that had light was vandalized. As we speak, government institutions such as airports, schools, hospitals were being run on generators. And you know how costly AGO is in this country. I don't know between AGO and dollar, which is the essential commodity now, I can say. Mr. President, sir, the primary purpose of government is the provision of security and welfare of the citizenry. So here is a complete region of Nigeria that has no light as a result of attitudes of criminals and vandals. So I support this motion and call on my colleagues to also support this motion with a view to providing electricity to the northeastern parts of this country. I thank you most sincerely for the opportunity, and I thank my colleagues for the opportunity. Thank you, sir.
Very distinguished colleagues, I am Ahmed Ibrahim Lawan, I represent TAB North. Mr. President, I stand up to support this very important motion, and of course, as someone from Yobe, I represent those who have sponsored the motion. Distinguished colleagues, the body of the motion itself is self-explanatory. All the details that we need to know are here. And the submissions by the sponsor of the motion, Senator Goje and Senator Kakashew Lawan, have gone further to explain what the body of this motion is all about. I want to come from a different perspective. The late 90s, UNDP categorized the northeastern part of Nigeria to be the poorest in Nigeria, the late 90s. And this situation has remained to date. Mr. President, when we are talking about restoring electricity in the Northeast, what we have is minuscule. It's small compared to what other parts of the country get. So in addition to getting the restoration, in fact, we'll be asking for justice. Because power, energy, helps in development of industries, and in fact, livelihood generally. We don't have in our areas, and the little that we had was taken away. Mr. President, the northeastern part of Nigeria is one part of Nigeria where we were promised Mambila hydroelectricity power. Since late 70s, to date, not 1 kilometer of road has been constructed to usher in the construction of that dam. Poverty is so entrenched in the lives of our people. Mr. President, imagine a section of Nigeria where, despite the backwardness, insurgents came and destroyed institutions of learning, particularly our primary schools and secondary schools. And educationally today, the Northeast is suffering so much because we are backward, we are being stopped from making any further progress. So the totality of what we have in the northeastern part of Nigeria today is a section of Nigeria that requires full and complete and total attention of the federal government. We thank the federal government of Nigeria that we have the Northeast Development Commission. But the Northeast Development Commission alone cannot handle the development challenges in the Northeast today. So I support this motion wholeheartedly, but I feel that, Mr. President, when you will take the lead in pursuing our case, we should go beyond just restoring the electricity that we have that is not even enough in any way in that part of the country, because we received the list. Thank you very much for the privilege.
Political zone. And the Senate was on short recess for Easter and Salah break. Immediately the incident happened, I contacted the Chairman Senate Committee on Power. We discussed extensively, and I moved to contact the Managing Director and Management of TCN Nigeria Limited. And Your Excellency and my distinguished colleagues, I'm happy to say that the Managing Director and the management of TCN acted promptly by asking their contractor to move to site immediately. The contractor moved to site and promised to deliver before the end of May. His own date is 27. At the moment, I've been in constant touch with the management of TCN and the contractor, and God willing, by Saturday this week, power will be restored to the Northeast geopolitical zone. Your Excellency and my distinguished colleagues, I want to specifically align myself with what the former President of the Senate said. The Northeast geopolitical zone is a forgotten and a zone that has been completely neglected. More especially the corridor between Benue, Taraba, and Adamawa has been neglected for the whole period of the existence of Nigeria. That is why you don't see rail along that line. You don't see major federal highway along that line. The only federal highway that existed along that line is a trans-Saharan road supported by the African Development Bank, which is supposed to start from Calabar and end in Tripoli. Your Excellency, my distinguished colleagues, I will want us to support this motion to mount further pressure on TCN and its contractor to employ more hands in handling the towers, even though they assured me this weekend that Saturday, unfailingly, they will restore power to the Northeast geopolitical zone. Your Excellency, my distinguished colleagues, as I said, Northeast, Northeast, Northeast. Your Excellency, the former Senate President has explained that Mambila Power Project was promised to us years back. Your Excellency and my distinguished colleagues, there is nothing like Mambila Hydro Project. Even the site that was earmarked for this project, it has no accessible road. Nobody has been there. A lot of money has been expended on that project that doesn't exist at all. Not even the survey has been completed. Your Excellency and my distinguished colleagues, I think on the issue of Mambila Hydro Project, we need to constitute a special committee to look into the dubious means of awarding that contract, a total neglect to due process, and a total violation of Procurement Act and waste of money. Yes? Your Excellency, the Senate needs to constitute an ad hoc committee to look into Mambila Hydro Project. When I was the chairman of public procurement in the 9th Senate, I was opportune to read the procurement process. Your Excellency, it's a dubious process. Nobody is supposed to come up and claim $2 million, $3 million for doing nothing. $3 million will improve the life of citizens in the Northeast geopolitical zone. Your Excellency, the Senate needs to do something special on Mambila Hydro Project. Your Excellency, let me use this opportunity to thank the management of TCN for their prompt action to handle the situation. Your Excellency, the issue of power in the Northeast zone, especially during the hot season, has its own untold hardship on our people. People lost their life, lost their business. People have so many health issues because of lack of power during the peak period of hot season in the Northeast geopolitical zone. And in supporting and associating myself with this motion, I second the motion and congratulate all those that put their heads together to bring about this motion. I so second.
Thank you.
Mr. President, this motion is very important. Just last week, the governors of Northeast geopolitical zone had a meeting. And in that meeting, this issue reoccurred, prominently. And they called on the federal government to restore power supply in that geopolitical zone. Mr. President, I want us to go beyond restoration of electricity supply in the Northeast. We should find out the culprits, those that are responsible for the vandalization of the power line. It is considered as economic sabotage for people to go and destroy government properties, whether it is electricity power towers or rail lines, roads, infrastructure generally. And Mr. President, even if these people are caught within a very short period of time, we find them to be set free. So, to me, we are not serious as a nation. Those that are responsible for this should be punished. And in addition to that, Mr. President, Northeast governors also promised that each of the governors should try and construct 10 kV line of solar electricity, simply because what they have is not enough. This is to complement whatever the federal government is doing. And I see this as a novel idea, and it's worthy of emulation by all the governors. Power supply in Nigeria is really not enough. Generally speaking, wherever you go, whether it is northeast, north, west, north central, southwest, south-south, the story is the same. So if our governors can collaborate with the federal government, and opportunity has already been given by the amendment of the Power Electricity Act that gave opportunities to governors to come in and generate power, distribute power to service their people. So I support this motion, and I urge all my colleagues to do it. I'm happy to hear that the TCN has already responded, and they promised to restore the power supply in Northeast before the end of this month. I sincerely hope that they will fulfill this promise. And if they do, Mr. President, we should call them and thank them very much for doing that. And there is also an opportunity for TCN and even distribution company, Mr. President. The former president, President Buhari, signed a bilateral agreement with the German government when Angela Merkel, the former chancellor of Germany, came into Nigeria. He complained that our major problem in Nigeria is power supply. And she immediately directed Siemens, it's an electricity giant. It's a very big company that is known for electricity supply and generation. She directed that company to come and study the power problems in Nigeria and do their best to handle it. And I understand they're already in the country and they have done quite a lot of work. So we should also see the opportunity of directing TCN to instruct Siemens to go and see what's happening in the Northeast with the view of restoring power supply. And so that's my case, Mr. President.
Thank you. The distinguished colleagues, there is really nobody, distinguished Senator Alero pointed out, is that even the governors are already exploring ways of bringing additional power supply to the Northeast through the green energy, through solar, and by constructing about 10 kilometers, 10 kilowatts of solar panels. And I think this is a noble idea. But also recall that when the ambassador of Germany to Nigeria came, we brought up the issue of the Siemens contract. And then we pointed out that the initial intention was not for them to become suppliers of equipment. It was supposed to be a turnkey project where they will bring the equipment, install the equipment, run the equipment for a while, and then hand over to Nigerians. But I think somewhere along the line, somebody went and tried to change them to suppliers, which means they can come and dump the equipment here and go back home. And then they said that we have capacity to install. And at the end, they will make nonsense of the effort of the former administration. So we pleaded with the ambassador to do everything possible to go back to the original agreement, where the Siemens will come not just as equipment suppliers, but will come in on a turnkey level, supply the equipment, install the equipment, test run the equipment, run it for a while, and then train our people, and then hand over to our people. So I do hope that the Committee on Legislative Compliance is monitoring to be sure that that decision of the Senate is being adhered to. Otherwise, we'll have equipment lying at the wharf for the next 10 years without being cleared. So having said that, we can go into the prayers, unless Salisu, Mustafa, you have something to add?
The actual motion, which is about vandals. We have said all we can about electricity supply, how epileptic it is, and the efficiency. But there's one area we have not touched, which is those who are actively involved in this act of vandalization. When we say vandalization, it's just like they are spoiling. No. Sometimes they come to steal some of these things to resell in the market. and it is being done with the active participation of some of the staffs of some of these agencies. Because I have experience where some people wanted to sell transformer to me. At the end of the day, we discovered these were stolen items from the then NEPA. So because nobody will just stand up and go and climb the pole wire to harvest or to remove 33 kVA cables like that without having knowledge of how the system works. So I want us to also draw our attention and the attention of those who are supposed to be custodians of this asset, that we must find a deterrent in making scapegoats out of those that are caught in this active business of theirs. So that's my little contribution here, sir.
Representing the good people of Taraba South, the headquarters of Korarofa Kingdom. Your Excellency, thank you for the opportunity that you give me to contribute to this motion heavily brought by my senior brother, His Excellency Haruna Manu, Taraba Central. Your Excellency, the issue is not to restore the power back to the Northeast. The issue is how to safeguard those assets. I was privileged to speak with the director, Yola Distribution Company. He told me particularly that we, the consumer, leave all those assets as if we are not part of it. But it's a responsibility of we, the consumers, to protect those assets, not only them, the distribution company. So, Your Excellency, my take is this. Let me appreciate the effort of all the governors in the Northeast for what they are doing, but I want to suggest that, or add to that, their effort is to create maybe task force or something to protect those assets from those people that vandalize and destabilize the power, not only in the Northeast, they are everywhere, Your Excellency. And those people, they are heavily armed. In my constituency, they came to vandalize one transformer with 6 AK-47 rifles. They tied somebody that was close there. They tied him, and they did what they did. So, Your Excellency, I think we should put more our decision to protect the asset. The measure is to safeguard the asset is more important. Thank you, Your Excellency.
Project, Senator Lau, you may have to come with a different motion for us to look into it, because it's a very large project, and then you try to know how much we have expended so far and what has been done. Because you pointed out that not even 1 kilometer of road has been tarred so far towards the location, and yet billions have been spent. So please come back to us with a different motion on that. And then come back to us with a different motion on that. No, when we go into the, well, no problem, yeah, you're allowed. Then, of course, Senator Jimmy Kuta, you brought up a very crucial point, and that point is the need for us to have a task force to protect the assets. So I think that is also, that will be part of our recommendations, so that people can try to make sure that those things are safe. And then the third part of it is that when they are arrested, they are set free. So we should also make sure that the law is stringent. That is our responsibility, to look at the existing act covering that area to know whether we can strengthen them with a view to ensuring that anybody who aids or abets any act of vandalism is also a vandal. Anybody who aids or abets acts of vandalism is also a vandal. So once we make that very stringent, and then we prescribe the right punishment, it will deter people from attempting to release them whenever they are arrested, and then to make sure that the culprits are actually brought to book to serve as a deterrent to future vandals. Yes, Senator Bello, Sani Bello, you have something to add?
Thank you, Mr. President. I think I would like to suggest that efforts should be made to power all communities along the transmission line. That will give them a sense of ownership. Once you power the communities along the transmission line, it gives them a sense of ownership and they'll protect those facilities. At the moment, some of these communities just see light, but they don't benefit from light. So no amount of police or civil defense, because it's a vast area, can protect these transmission lines. So the critical stakeholders like TCN, the GENCOs, DISCOs, Northeast Development Commission should come together, even if it's through corporate social responsibility, to power all communities along the transmission lines so that they will have sense of belonging, sense of ownership, and they will protect these lines. I think that will go a long way. Thank you.
The federal government, through the Federal Ministry of Power, to, as a matter of urgency, allocate funds to the Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, to address the faults along the Jos Gombe 330 kVA transmission line and restore power supply to affected areas, especially on all affected towers. Those in support of prayer one say aye.
Amendment to prayer one.
Yes.
Amendment, sir. Mr. One, sir. Prayer one to urge the federal government through the Federal Ministry of Power to, as a matter of urgency, allocate funds to TCN to address the faults along Jos Gombe, Gombe Maiduguri, and Gombe Maiduguri Dama through 33 kVA lines, because these are all existing facilities, sir. So I want Gombe, Maiduguri, and Maiduguri Dama through to be included. So I so amend the prayer to include these two lines, sir. Thank you, sir. I so move.
Just Maiduguri? Gombe Maiduguri line of the 330 kVA. Those in support of the prayer as amended say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2. Urge the prayer 2. It's been amended and carried. So you can bring it as additional prayer. Prayer 2. Urge the federal government of Nigeria, in line with the renewed hope agenda of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu GCFR, to expedite the construction of the Makurdi-Jalingo 330 kVA transmission line in alignment with the Transmission Rehabilitation and Expansion Program TREP and the Presidential Power Initiative PPI to connect the Northeast region to the Southeast Transmission Network. Those in support of prayer 2 say aye. Those against say nay. The prayer 2 is carried. Prayer 3. Further urge the Federal Ministry of Power to implement the recommendations outlined in sections 209, 211, 212, and 213 of the Electricity Act of 2023 to enhance the security of transmission infrastructure. Also to collaborate with the security agencies and local vigilantes in host communities of TCN transmission lines to deter and prevent acts of vandalism. That was what Governor Bello said. Those in support of prayer 3 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Yes, any additional prayer? Senator Yao.
Thank you, Mr. President, and my distinguished colleague, Senator Issa Shoaibullah.
So in support of it say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. So let me thank distinguished Senator Manu and all other distinguished colleagues who have made contributions towards this all-important motion. And to say that, yes, indeed, it is something we abhor that, of course, darkness will create opportunities for miscreants to wreak havoc on the communities, and that as much as possible, the TCN should immediately rise to the occasion, and the Federal Ministry of Power should ensure that the power is restored to the northeastern part of this country to aid the security of lives and properties, which of course remain the primary focus of government. I thank all of you. I thank the mover of the motion. I thank all of us for the contributions, and I do hope that again, the Senate Committee on Legislative Compliance will follow up to know how far the resolutions of this Senate are being obeyed. Thank you. Leader.
Taraba Central. urgent need arise to move the motion for the urgent need to address the vandalization of TCN lines in the northeast region of Nigeria. The Senate notes that the vandalization of critical electricity transmission infrastructure poses a significant threat to the economic prosperity, public health, safety, and security of the northeast region of Nigeria. Further note that recent incident of vandalization along the Jos Gombe 330 kV transmission line have resulted in severe disruption to power supply, affecting the millions of residents, hospitals, commercial activities, communication networks, public safety, and the overall well-being of the people of Plateau, Bauchi, Gombe, Adamawa, Taraba, Yobe, and Borno states. Aware that the frequent vandalization of transmission lines, especially the disruption of TCN towers, not only disrupt the electricity supply in the affected states, but also compromises essential services such as healthcare and education. It also exacerbates insecurity issues and imposes a heavy financial burden on public resources for the repair and replacement of infrastructural damages. Further aware that the indirect effect of power outages on food production further strain the food inflation of the country, impacting the availability and affordability of agricultural products, particularly in the northeast region, which is a major cultivator and producer. Informed that the proposed alternative transmission line route, namely the construction of the Makodi-Jalingo 330 kV transmission line, offer a viable solution to mitigate the risks of vandalization and improve the resilience and reliability of the electrical infrastructure in the region. Also inform that by investing in alternative transmission routes and enhancing security measures, we can safeguard the well-being of our communities, promote economic stability, and ensure the reliability supply of electricity for all residents and businesses. Further inform that the Presidential Power Initiative, PPI, agreement between Nigeria and Germany aims to boost Nigeria's power infrastructure by rehabilitating and expanding its electricity grid. It involves the construction of new power plants, upgrading existing ones, and improving transmission and distribution networks. Germany, through its development bank, KfW, is providing financial and technical support for this initiative. Conscious that it is profitable for the nation to enhance accessibility and affordability of high-quality power supply services to support these states and their citizens. Resolve to urge the federal government through the Federal Ministry of Power to, as a matter of urgency, allocate funds to the Transmission Company of Nigeria, TSN, to address the fault along the Jos Gombe 330 kV transmission line and restore power supply to affected areas, especially on all affected towers. Also urge the federal government of Nigeria, in line with the Renew Hope agenda of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to expedite the construction of the Makodi-Jalingo 330 kV transmission line in alignment with the Transmission Rehabilitation and Expansion Program, TREP, and the Presidential Power Initiative, PPI, to connect the Northeast region to the Southeast Transmission Network. Mandate the Federal Ministry of Power to implement the recommendation outlined in Section 209, 210, 211, 212, and 213 of the Electricity Act 2023 to enhance the security of transmission infrastructure. Also, to collaborate with security agencies and local vigilantes in host communities of TCN transmission line to deter and prevent acts of vandalism. I so move, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Mohammed Danjuma Goje, representing Gombe Central in Gombe State. Mr. President, I stand to second and support this very important motion, which borders on the extreme hardship being experienced by all the states of the Northeast, including part of Plateau State. Mr. President, for over 1 month now, the Northeast region, all the 6 states and part of Plateau have been in total darkness 24 hours, non-stop. And the reason is just because some few towers of the 330 kV transmission line have been vandalized. And the transmission line has been supposedly working on these towers for the past maybe 30 or 40 days. Up to now, no tangible result has come out. Mr. President, it is very appealing that a very, very important part of this country, comprising 6 states and part of Plateau, can be kept in darkness non-stop, and nothing to show on the part of TCN to show that they are really very serious to solve this problem. People have been complaining, complaining in Mama. We have gone to them, I've written to them. Our governors have talked to them, traditional rulers, National Assembly members individually, and yet there's no result. That's why we are now coming to the National Assembly, to the Senate in particular, to intervene on behalf of our suffering people, to ensure that electricity is restored to the Northeast without delay. The mover of the motion has also touched on the need, I think I need to explain that, on the need to construct the Makadi-Jalingo 330 kV line. The idea is to have what they call double circuit. If we had this Makudi-Jalingo line, if we have fault along Jos, Gombe line, we can still, the 6 states can still get light through the Makadi-Jalingo Yola Gombe transmission line. That's what they call double circuit. But what we have now is single circuit. And it doesn't cost much if we can do that. That will solve the problem of electricity in the Northeast. Without doing that, any small fault, even if one tower is affected, the entire region will be in darkness. So, Mr. President, we urge you to intervene in addition to these 3 prayers possible to personally call, because it's very, very serious. People are desperate. No, as a result of this lack of electricity, there's no water. There's no water, and because of this, there's serious health problems. And there are serious health problems. In fact, there is hunger. So many things are associated with this lack of electricity, to the extent that we have very serious challenge of security because as a result of darkness. Because crooks, thieves, bandits prefer darkness to light, and that's what is happening. So we're in serious danger, and that's why we're calling for urgent intervention of the Senate, led by Mr. President, who is the uncommon leader. We want you to show your uncommon intervention in this matter to ensure that light is restored to us immediately. Thank you, Mr. President.